Welcome to this tutorial on how to conduct spatial economic benefit analysis. This tool helps analyzing different maritime sectors with regard to maritime spatial planning. My name is Barbara Weig and I'm a researcher at s.Pro Sustainable Projects. The tool, which I will show you in a moment, was developed in the framework of the BALTSPACE project. This research project under the bonus program aims at identifying and addressing enablers and barriers for integration in MSP in the Baltic Sea region. The purpose of this tutorial is to introduce the Spatial Economic Benefit Analysis tool. In this presentation, I will answer to the following questions. How can this methodology support a maritime spatial planner? What input is needed? How is the methodology applied? What are its outputs? And what are challenges? A maritime spatial planner has to make spatial designations for different sea uses. These decisions often involve trade-offs between different maritime sectors. An example would be, should we reserve more space for offshore wind parks, even if this has negative impacts on sectors like shipping or coastal tourism? To answer this question in a sound way, a multitude of aspects has to be considered. The presented tool focuses on one possible aspect. Who actually benefits from a certain sea use, and where are those beneficiaries located? For example, are those jobs in a respective sector created in coastal communities, or rather in industrial centers far away from the sea? Answers to this question also come in handy when maritime spatial planners are talking to stakeholders to explain and support their suggestions for spatial designations. I have applied the methodology of the spatial economic benefit analysis to the case of the German Baltic Sea area. When developing the methodology, it became obvious that sectors are very different and that each economic sector requires a specific approach. Thus, I developed a detailed methodology for offshore wind energy and shipping. Tourism and fishing have been tackled as well, but less comprehensively. For this reason, I will concentrate on shipping and offshore wind energy in this tutorial. We need two things for applying the spatial economic benefit analysis: a mapping software and data. In terms of mapping software, I used Regiograph provided by GfK Geomarketing. My version of the program provides basic maps for Europe, including different NUTS levels and the 2-digital postal code level. Moreover, large and medium-sized European cities are geo-referenced and listed. Each layer with geographical entities is connected to a table for data. The data to fill those tables has to be harvested by hand to be integrated into the visualization tool. For the purposes of this tool, there is no ready-to-use compilation available on portals like Eurostat. This gap, however, is the reason why this methodology has been developed at all. I will specify what data I collected and where I got data from later during this tutorial. The mapping program allows the import of own databases to design maps. Data from, for instance, Excel sheets can be imported directly into the program. To present qualitative and quantitative characteristics of geographical entities, the program offers different forms of signatures that can be assigned to geographical locations. This array of possibilities opens up many possibilities to present information in a geographical context. As I have mentioned earlier, different maritime sectors require a different approach for the spatial economic benefit analysis. However, the general steps to follow are the same for each sector. First, you should analyze the respective sector to get an overview. A helpful tool here is the concept of value chains. In a second step, it is helpful to brainstorm on possible beneficiaries. Which actors of this sector are influenced by decisions in MSP? Who benefits from the existence of areas dedicated to offshore wind farms or shipping routes? The third step is dedicated to data collection. Official statistics and other sources might be consulted. In the worst case, own research to collect data has to be conducted. This should be ultima ratio though, because it is very time-consuming. In the next step, the collected data has to be harmonized and edited depending on the needs of the used mapping software. The fifth step is the actual mapping, which depends on the software used. Last but not least, the maps should be analyzed and interpreted with regard to the question who benefits from different usages of the sea and where are those beneficiaries located geographically. Now I will become more detailed and show you step by step how I applied the tool for the shipping and the offshore wind sector. Let's start with step 1. The first step aims at familiarizing with the sectors chosen for analysis. As I said before, value chains are a suitable tool for most sectors to get an overview. Offshore wind farms, for example, are highly complicated systems. Many different tasks have to be done, like environmental surveys, the construction of different parts of the windmill, or the installation of foundations. Those tasks can be divided into 4 phases: development, construction, operation, and deconstruction. For the shipping sector, I have used the concept of transport chains. As starting point, I have chosen ports in the respective region. From those logistic hubs, the transport chains can be followed back to the source and forced to the sink. Interesting questions in this regard are: where are the goods transported? What is handled in the respective ports? How are those goods transported? And what kind of vessel and which transport mode for the hinterland is used? Let's continue with step 2. Based on the first sector analysis, it is helpful to brainstorm on some guiding questions. Who in the respective sector is affected by decisions in MSP? And thus, who should be considered by maritime spatial planners? The answers of those questions help you to know for what data to search later on. For the offshore wind sector, I developed 2 different approaches. The first one focuses on the enterprises involved in planning, constructing, and maintaining the offshore wind farms in the respective area of study. The second approach includes all national enterprises involved in the offshore wind sector in general. The 2 approaches result in different outcomes. The first one concentrates rather on the present and past. It includes enterprises that have been or are involved in offshore wind farms in the respective region. A comparison of different wind farms regarding the distribution of the involved enterprises is possible and reveals interesting insights in the consequences of different wind farm owners. The second approach focuses rather on the present and future. It includes all enterprises in the country that are able to contribute to offshore wind farms. This approach includes enterprises not yet involved in offshore wind farms in the respective sea region. Those firms, however, might be involved in future projects, having already gained experiences in other seas. The second approach provides a more general overview of the geographical distribution of the sector and reveals regional hotspots of different competences. Brainstorming on the shipping sector also reveals several options. One possibility is to focus on the actors along the value chain: shipping companies, port services, logistics, etc. However, shipping companies offer their services all over the world. A location analysis of shipping companies thus does not help regional or national maritime spatial planners to take decisions. On the other side, changes of a maritime spatial plan do not necessarily affect regional shipping companies more than international ones. This first approach does not seem suitable for our purposes. Instead, transport chains are used. Shipping relations are looked at as well as hinterland connections. The guiding question is, which goods are transported on which relations by using the ports of the respective region. This approach allows answering the question, who benefits from the existing ports and shipping lines? The approach focuses on the demand instead of the supply side of shipping services. It analyzes the geographical distribution of those industries using the service of shipping in the case study area. Let's continue with step 3. Data collection is probably the most time-consuming task within the spatial economic benefit analysis. The success depends highly on the availability of data. At the end, it might be necessary to reject some approaches developed during step 1 and 2. Therefore, it is helpful to have several options at the beginning. Where to find data always depends on the region of study. In general, it should be avoided to combine too many different sources. To harmonize data from different sources is time-consuming. Some sources are even incompatible because of different approaches and levels of aggregation. For the first approach regarding the offshore wind sector, I found suitable data provided by 4C Offshore Limited Consultancy. Their website provides information on the status of planned or realized offshore wind farm projects in many countries, including a list of enterprises contracted to contribute to the project. For the second approach regarding the offshore wind sector, a more comprehensive research was necessary. Good starting points for review are membership lists of offshore wind associations and participation lists of fairs and specific thematically relevant conferences, meetings, or presentations. For the shipping sector, I use data from regional statistical offices and information provided directly by ports. The statistics should cover at least one whole year to avoid seasonal differences. For analysis, it is important to harmonize the collected statistical data to avoid differences in aggregation. For the hinterland connections, information can be asked directly at the operating companies or ports. However, the availability and sources for statistics and further information may differ from region to region. The approach has to be adapted to regional opportunities. Now we can start with step 4. For the database development, you should already have in mind which mapping software you will use later on. Moreover, this step depends on the data you have collected in the previous step. Creating a database means to bring the available raw data into a shape that can be used for mapping. For the offshore wind sector, I developed a company database with company names, locations, using postal codes, and functions. In the next step, I categorized the companies by their function. Those categories include tasks like foundations, sensor technology, logistics, environmental or legal consultancy, etc. Some companies fit in several categories. The value chain approach helps to find suitable categories. In the second step, I marked the phases in which the companies are active based on their tasks. For the shipping sector, different databases have been developed. One database, for instance, focuses on the ports in the respective region. Information on the total amount of goods handled during 1 year, the amount of different imported or exported goods, the share of import-export, as well as the main destinations for imports and exports have been collected. Having developed databases, we can come to the most important step, the mapping. Depending on the used mapping software, different options for mapping are possible. Mapping can be based on different geographical scales. Common options to assign data to areas are postal codes, different NUTS levels, or administrative units, depending on the country. In addition, single cities might be used as anchor points for geographical information. In addition, different forms of point, line, and area signatures might be used. I will give you examples for each group of signatures in the following. Point signatures are suitable to indicate the location of single entities or groups of entities. An example is the presentation of the geographical distribution of all enterprises involved in the development, construction, and operation of the German Baltic Sea wind farms NBB1 and Vantatech East. Each signature stands for a certain number of enterprises. Size and color of the signature indicate if 1, 2, 3 to 4, or 5 and more enterprises are represented by one signature. In this case, the point signatures in form of squares are assigned to different two-digit postal code areas. Point signatures might also consist of diagrams, such as bar or pie charts. This method enables presenting the share of different aspects in a variety of locations. An example is the map of all ports in the German Baltic Sea area, indicating their share of different imported goods. Area signatures enable mapping qualitative or quantitative information on different geographical scales. Having a large database, it is necessary to aggregate data. In the following example of the offshore wind sector, regions have been categorized according to the number of enterprises they host. Each color indicates another group of regions. Dark red areas indicate regions with more than 15 enterprises, while yellow areas stand for one firm in the respective region only. The example is based again on two-digit postal code areas. In some cases, the geographical area of data might not correspond with the available map bases. Most software programs offer the possibility to aggregate different areas to produce new geographical entities. This method has been applied to the following example. The statistical data on shipping relations only indicates the shipping region of origin or destination. Those official shipping regions do not correspond to administrative or postal code areas. Therefore, a new mapping base had to be created by aggregating existing areas to the desired shipping regions. Just like in the last example, the different colored gradations indicate a certain range. In this case, regions with a similar amount of goods exported to the German Baltic Sea region or imported from the German Baltic Sea region are clustered within one category. A third group of signatures are line signatures. Those ones are used to map relations between 2 points or areas. Lines can show qualitative information by using different colors, or quantitative data by using different levels of thickness and/or colors. In the following example, line signatures are used to map the hinterland connections by train from different German Baltic Sea ports. Here, a mixture of qualitative and quantitative information is given. The red lines indicate direct connections, while the green ones stand for indirect connections via a transhub. In addition, the different shades of red and different line widths indicate the number of departures per week. Data has been clustered for this aim. 1 to 4 departures are indicated by thin lines in rows. 5 to 10 departures are indicated by bright red lines with a medium width, and relations with more than 10 departures per week are shown by dark red, thick lines. Let's come to the last step of the spatial economic benefit analysis. Having created several maps, most of the work is done. However, the maps are of no use without analyzing them. To analyze the maps in an enriching way, it is advisable to get back to the brainstorming and to check what was the aim of the analysis and which answers on the questions asked at the beginning can be answered by the maps. In general, the survey should result in naming the beneficiaries in the respective sectors, if possible categorizing different groups of beneficiaries, indicating the locations of those beneficiaries and different subgroups, and in identifying regional hotspots of beneficiaries, possibly also differentiated by subgroups. At this point, it is time for an assessment of the strengths and weaknesses of this tool. There are definitely 2 main challenges. First, the data harvesting is manual work and very time-consuming. Second, the benefits are not monetized and thus hard to compare across sectors. But the tool also has some strength. It enables to show the spatial distribution of economic benefits and thus offers the integration of information that has not been included in the MSP process before. Moreover, it can be transferred to other countries or regional cases. In addition, it is not only interesting from an MSP perspective, but also for economic development or even business development. Thank you for your interest in the spatial economic benefit analysis. If you want to learn more about the topics of the BALTSPACE project and its tools, please visit our website at www.baltspace.eu.